Hi everyone, I'm Helen from Susan's family. Today, I'll show you a cute pet angel bag in the bunny style. It's divided into the main part and the decorations. Let's start with the main part. Once it's completed, we'll make and attach the decorations. So let's begin making the main part. It consists of 3 areas: the bottom, the body, and the bag opening. Both the bottom and the top opening have 2 separate sections each. Start by making the bag bottom, then, we'll move upwards to make the bag body, and the bag opening. Let's start with the bag bottom first. It includes bottom section 1 and bottom section 2. You need to make 2 pieces of bottom section 1. After completing it, continue crocheting section 2 along the edge of section 1. Keep going with section 2 from there. During this process, you'll need to sew them together and insert a grid board. Let's start with section 1 of the bag bottom. Use a foundation chain to start. Then, crochet in rounds back and forth along the foundation chain. Let's take a look at the chart. In the chart, our plus number represents the round number. The stitch instructions column describes the stitches and increases or decreases. When working the current round, the total stitches column shows the total number of stitches. After completing that round, the stitches used include X stitch single crochet, VSC 2-in-1, WSC 3-in-1, chain, and slip stitch. Below, please watch as I demonstrate. For convenience in watching, I will use other colors for the demonstration, for specific yarn, color schemes, and hook sizes. You can refer to the detail page of our product and the charts. First, work the foundation chain. Here, the foundation chain is 39 ch. This indicates that the method for starting is to chain 39. Hang the yarn with your left hand. Hold the hook with your right hand. Make a knot. Slightly tighten it. The knot from the foundation chain does not count as one stitch. Start crocheting chains. Finish the required number of stitches. Here, there are a lot of stitches. Everyone can check it. 1 braid represents 1 stitch. The last loop does not count towards the stitch count. The explanation for foundation chain is now complete. Next, let's crochet the first round. R1 is DOW2, V36X, W37X. DOW2 means starting from the second chain from the hook. Count backwards from the side with the hook. 1, 2. This is the second to last stitch. Pick up the braid of the chain. 1 thread on top. Insert the hook and crochet at SC 2-in-1. That is, work 2 single crochets in the same position. Note that the main part is crocheted using X stitch single crochets. From now on, I'll simply call it a single crochet. Insert the hook. Place the hook above the yarn. Yarn over and draw through. Yarn over again, and pull through the loops on the hook. This completes the single crochet. The braid on the upper right is the stitch. Continue by making 1 more single crochet in the same stitch. Here, when you yarn over and draw through, it's always above the yarn. At this point, the SC 2-in-1 is completed. Next is 36X. The number before the X indicates the number of single crochets to work. Here it means to crochet 36 single crochets. Continue by picking up 1 strand of the chain. Work into each stitch. After completing, the chart below shows SC3 in 1. That means to crochet 3 single crochets in the remaining chain from the starting stitch. 1, 2, 3. Complete the single SC3 in 1. Then rotate the piece clockwise by half a circle. Let's take a look. Here, there are 2 strands like this on the other side of the chain. From now on, you will be crocheting into these kinds of strands. This is also the insertion point for the stitches on this side. Start from the second chain on the left side. Work 1 single crochet into each stitch correspondingly. Place the starting yarn tail above the hook. Weave it while crocheting. The single crochets on this side are symmetrical with the other side. Work 2 stitches into the same space. The last stitch is worked into the same hole as the first stitch. At this point, the corresponding stitches for this round are completed. Finish with a slip stitch in the first stitch. Note that the slip stitch is not indicated in the chart here. When crocheting in rounds, you need to finish each round with a slip stitch. Here, the adjacent vertical position on the left side is the beginning chain. The horizontal braid on the left is the first single crochet. It corresponds to the stitch of the first single crochet. If you're really unsure, you can also count the stitches from back to front. Insert the hook and work a slip stitch in the corresponding position. Here, the braid at the top right is formed by the slip stitch. Remember, the slip stitch doesn't count as one stitch and needs to be tightened. This prevents adding extra stitches later. At this point, the first round is complete. We now have the neatly textured side of the first round. Consider this as the right side of the piece. The wrong side has a more blurred texture. Move on to crochet the second round. Start with CH. Correspondingly make 1 chain. This is the beginning chain for single crochet. It doesn't count as 1 stitch. The total stitches do not include this. Then, the chart shows a turn. This indicates that you need to turn the work. Turn the piece over. Pick up the adjacent stitch on the left. Crochet a SC2 in 1. This round is crocheted on the wrong side of the previous round. The stitch is located at the top left. Then work 36 single crochets evenly. After completing, crochet 3 SC2 in 1. Next, crochet 36 single crochets. Finally, finish with 2 SC2 in 1. At this point, the stitches in the chart are completed. Find the first stitch below. Join with a slip stitch. Tighten it as well. This completes the second round. Next, move on to the third round. Start with 1 chain. Then turn your work. This round is crocheted on the right side. Below in the chart, it's XV times 2. The parentheses here indicate a group. The times symbol indicates the number of times to repeat the group. First, make 1 single crochet. Then, work 1 SC2 in 1. That completes the XV. Let me demonstrate it again. First, crochet 1 single crochet. Then, make 1 SC2 in 1. This is the second time. After that, work 36 single crochets correspondingly. Once completed, another set of parentheses appears. It means the same as before. Repeat the stitches inside the parentheses 3 times. First time. Second time. Third time. Then continue to work 37 single crochets correspondingly. Finally, make 1 SC2 in 1. Next, pick up the first single crochet. Work a slip stitch join. Pull tight. At this point, the third round is complete. Continue crocheting rounds 4 through 6. The stitches used in these rounds have all been demonstrated in detail earlier. The meaning of stitch instructions is similar to before. Just follow the stitch order in the chart, repeating the corresponding number of times. At the end of each round, remember to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. And make sure to tighten the slip stitch. Once you've completed these rounds, leave a yarn tail after finishing. Here, I'll demonstrate with a small sample. First, crochet 1 chain to secure, then leave a 50 cm yarn tail. Break the yarn. Pull the yarn through. Tighten it. That concludes the explanation for the first piece. Everyone, follow the same method, and crochet another piece. After finishing, there's no need to break the yarn. That concludes the explanation of section 1 of the bag bottom. Next, we will crochet section 2 of the bag bottom. Continue crocheting the piece without breaking the yarn from section 1. First, crochet the first round. Make 1 chain. Turn your work. Then pick up stitches, and work single crochets evenly. After finishing the last stitch, join it with the first stitch using a slip stitch. Tighten the yarn. The first round is complete. At this point, we need to compare the dimensions and trim the grid board. Here, you can cut a long yarn tail in another color. Thread it into a sewing needle. Then secure the piece to the grid board. The method is up to you. As long as it's stable, that's fine. Afterward, trim the grid board along the edges of the piece. Be careful while cutting. Make sure not to cut the piece. You can slightly lift the edge of the piece while trimming. Start by cutting a rough outline. Then trim the edges afterward. Take a look at the edges now. They can be slightly smaller than the piece. Once done, remove the securing thread. Next, pick up section 1 of the bag bottom with the broken yarn. Merge the two pieces together. Align the shapes of the pieces here. Place the fastened off piece behind. The piece without the broken yarn will face you. Make sure the right side faces out. You can use stitch markers to find a few points on the edge for securing. If you don't have stitch markers, you can also use yarn tails or paper clips to secure it. Everyone can follow this method and find more points to secure. This makes sewing together easier. After securing is complete, thread the yarn tail into the sewing needle. Pick up 2 stitches from the edge of the piece and sew them together. The grid board is wrapped inside. Follow this method to sew the entire round. Sew until you reach where you started. Continue sewing a few more stitches for extra security. Finally, weave the yarn tail on the wrong side. That's the side with only 6 rounds of piece. Start by making a few knots at the adjacent position. Then weave in the remaining strand into the piece. You can weave it for a few more stitches if needed. This secures the grid board in place. Continue crocheting for round 2. Start with 1 chain. Then turn your work. Pick up the stitches from the piece behind. Insert the hook and crochet the corresponding stitches. Be mindful not to pick up stitches from the front piece. Finish with the last stitch. Join it with the first stitch using a slip stitch. Pull tight. This completes round 2. For the remaining rounds, pick up stitches from the previous round and crochet accordingly. Refer to the chart for guidance. Crochet the remaining rounds until completion. After finishing, fasten off the yarn. Leave the yarn tails untreated for now. This concludes the explanation of section 2 for the bag bottom. Next, we will crochet the bag body. Start by working back and forth here, then crochet in rounds. During this process, skip some positions and leave them unworked. This will form an opening. We'll use a new stitch technique, a SC2 tog. There is also a new method introduced, K-skip. Please watch as I demonstrate. Start by working row 1. Position the ending point of section 2 of the bag bottom to face you. Pay attention that the right side of the last round should be facing you. Then locate the slip stitch joining position. Begin from the first stitch of the previous round on the left side. Count 16 stitches to the left. Then insert your hook into the stitch just to the left of it. Pick up the yarn. Make a slip knot. Place it onto the hook. Pull through. Adjust it slightly. Then make 1 chain. Next, turn your work. Crochet 88 single crochets evenly in the next stitches. Weave the yarn tail as you crochet. If you encounter any previous yarn tails while working, weave them in the same way. Continue crocheting downward. After completing, you'll see K44 on the chart below. K stands for skip. The number after K indicates how many stitches to skip. Here, that means skip 44 stitches. You can check the stitch count at this point. At the same time, check if the skipped stitches are centered. If the position is off, you can adjust the starting position according to the situation. Now the first row is complete. Move on to the second row. There's no need to make a turning chain here. Simply turn your work. Then skip 1 stitch on the left. When there's no number after K, it means to skip 1 stitch by default. Start from the second stitch on the left side. Pick up stitches and work the corresponding number of single crochets one by one. After completing, leave the last stitch unworked. The second row is now done. Next, the chart shows H3 to H9. Turn H6X. This means the crochet technique for these rows is the same. At the start of each row, turn your work first, then work 86 single crochets evenly. Repeat this process. Complete these rows. For the 10th row, there are no new stitch techniques. Just refer to the chart and crochet as indicated. After completing, move on to the 11th row. This row requires a color change. First, fasten off the previous yarn. Then, pick up the corresponding color. At the last stitch of the previous row, pick up the stitch and insert the hook to join the yarn. Then turn your work. Pick up the stitches and work 6 single crochets evenly. Pay attention to weaving in the yarn tail as you crochet. Next, you'll need to work a SC2 tog. Start with an unclosed single crochet. Insert the hook. Yarn over and pull through. There will be 2 loops on your hook. That's the unclosed single crochet. For the next adjacent stitch, work another unclosed single crochet. Now there are 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and draw through all loops. This completes the SC2 tog. Then work 6 single crochets evenly. Next, do another SC2 tog. Start by working 2 unclosed single crochets. 1, 2. Finally, yarn over and pull through all loops. This finishes the SC2 tog. For the rest, continue following the chart for your crocheting. Finish with the last stitch. Row 11 is now complete. For rows 12 through 15, simply follow the chart directly. There is no turning chain at the start of each row. After turning your work, crochet the corresponding stitches. Once done, move on to row 16. Begin with 2 chains. Then turn your work. Start from the second to last chain. Pick up the top strand of the chain. At this point, the wrong side of the chain should be facing you. Insert the hook into the top loop. Then work 1 SC2 in 1. For the following stitches, pick up the corresponding stitches. Refer to the chart and crochet accordingly. Finish with the last stitch. Row 16 is now complete. Continue with row 17. First, make 2 chains. Turn your work. Pick up at the second to last stitch. That is, the chain position next to the single crochet. Pick up the top loop of the chain, and work a SC2 in 1. Then continue picking up stitches and crocheting accordingly. There are no new stitches or techniques used in this row. You can simply crochet straight through. For the following rows 18 to 22, start by crocheting the corresponding number of chains each time. Then go back and pick up the second to last chain to continue crocheting. Similarly, there are no new stitches or techniques used in these rows. Just refer to the chart directly. Finish crocheting these rows. After completing, start crocheting in rounds. Continue with the previous sequence number. Next is row 23 for crocheting in rounds. Start by picking up where the previous yarn tail left off. Crochet 15 chains. Then slip stitch. Into the last stitch of the previous round. Pull tight. Then make 1 chain. Turn your work. Pick up the top loop of the chain. Crochet 15 single crochets evenly. Continue picking up stitches and crocheting accordingly. After completing the last stitch, please check the stitch count. Then pick up the starting single crochet. Crochet a slip stitch to join. Tighten it. Round 23 is now completed. Move on to round 24 below. Start with 1 chain. Turn your work. Then correspondingly crochet single crochets. Complete this round. Finish with the last stitch. Pick up and join with a slip stitch. Pull tight. Round 24 is now complete. At this point, the body section has been crocheted. Here you will break the yarn. That concludes the explanation of the body. Next, we will crochet the bag opening. There are 2 sections in total. First, crochet section 1 along one side of the body. Then crochet section 2 along the corresponding area of the remaining part. Please watch me demonstrate. Here, I will continue using the sample for demonstration. Face the ending position of the last round of the bag body toward yourself. Pay attention to having the neat side of the texture from the last round facing you. Then start from the left side of the slip stitch mark. The first stitch position. Count 19 stitches to the left. Join the yarn on the corresponding stitch. Make 1 chain. Turn your work. Continue crocheting the corresponding single crochets according to the pattern chart. Remember to weave the yarn tail as you crochet. After completing the last stitch, the first row is done. Take a look now. Fold the bag body in half, matching the front and back. Check if this area is centered above the opening. If the position doesn't match, adjust the starting position based on the actual situation. For rows 2 through 18, just follow the chart to crochet the corresponding stitches. Everyone, finish these rows. After completion, start crocheting row 19. Begin with a turning chain. Turn your work. Then skip one stitch. Crochet one slip stitch next. When there's no special instruction, there's no need to tighten the slip stitch. Continue picking up stitches. Work single crochets evenly. Crochet all the way to the slip stitch position on the chart. When you reach the corresponding position, crochet one slip stitch downward. There will be one stitch remaining after that. Leave it unworked. At this point, row 19 is completed. For rows 20 through 23, simply follow the chart to crochet. After finishing row 23, fasten off the yarn. Once completed, proceed with crocheting the edging. On the right side of the piece, at the right edge of the first row, pick up an adjacent stitch and insert the hook to join a new yarn. Then make one chain. After that, pick up the edges of each row, selecting the spaces along the edge, and work single crochets correspondingly. There is no fixed requirement for the number of stitches here, as long as the edge looks flat and neat after completion. During this process, when you encounter previous single crochets and slip stitches, pick up the stitches and the braid of the slip stitch, and crochet accordingly. The number of stitches has no fixed requirement here either, just make sure the piece looks neat and flat. When you reach the position of the last row, pick up the stitches and the braid from the slip stitches separately, and work single crochets evenly. Then, on the other side, follow the same method, and work single crochets evenly. Continue until you reach the edge of the first row. Pick up the left stitch and work one slip stitch. Then cut the yarn. Weave the yarn tail into the wrong side of the piece. You can weave a few more stitches if needed. It's normal for the piece to curve inward slightly here. That concludes the explanation for section 1 of the bag opening. Next, we will crochet section 2 of the bag opening. Place section 1 facing you. Starting from section 1, move left. And find the corresponding stitch to join the yarn. Then crochet back and forth. Finally, crochet the edging along the edge. The method is the same as for section 1. Refer to the chart. And complete the crocheting of section 2. That concludes the explanation of the bag opening. With that, the main part has been fully explained. Next, we will make the decorations. Made with TPU. Zipper. Straps. Claws. Collar. Wings. Facial features. Flowers. Leaves. Tail and carrot. Make and attach them in order. Let's start making the TPU. Start by cutting the piece according to the paper pattern, then attach it to the opening of the bag. Crochet the edging separately afterward. Finally, attach it to the edge of the opening. First, cut the piece. The kit includes a paper pattern for this step. Cut along the outer ring of the pattern. After completing the cutting, let's put the pattern and piece together to check the size. Place the pattern at the opening position. Take a look at the overall effect. If the paper pattern is smaller than the opening, you can add a bit more space when cutting the piece. Next, pick up the piece and place the paper pattern on top of it. Use a carbon pencil or any pen that shows up on the piece and trace around the edges of the pattern. This part is done by yourself. After tracing, cut along the marked lines you just drew. You can complete this step on your own. This is how the sample looks after cutting. Next, you need to place the piece over the opening and secure it in place. First, prepare a length of thin thread. Make sure the thread is long enough. Then insert it through a fine needle. Set it aside for later use. Afterward, align the piece with the opening. Match the shapes accordingly. The straight edge goes on the bottom, and the curvy side goes on the top. Then, directly below, find a relatively centered position. This should correspond to the center of the piece. Use a thin needle and thread to secure it in place. You can slightly fold the piece in half. And then find the centered position. Tie a knot to secure it. On the exact top. Secure it using the same method. Then, find suitable positions on both ends and secure them as well. You can fix a few more points if needed. This makes the sewing process easier later on. Everyone can finish this part on their own. After securing, we'll start sewing below. Take a 50 cm sewing thread and insert it into a thin needle. Then, turn the wrong side of the piece outward. We will sew from the inside. Start from the corner on one side and move downward. Pick a spot on the inner side of the piece here. Match it with a point just inside the piece edge. Sew together roughly in alignment. There's no strict requirement for the method, just make sure it's secure. Begin by leaving a little thread at the start. Tie the two yarn tails into a knot to secure them. Then continue sewing, matching the corresponding parts. Be mindful to pick from the inner side of the piece. Make sure not to pick through to the right side of the piece. Continue sewing using this method. If you run out of thread during the process, you can first pass the yarn tail to the inside of the piece. Then take a new piece of yarn and tie a double knot with the previous tail to secure it. After that, continue sewing. Here, sew all the way to the other end. If there's excess piece, you can trim it before sewing. Keep sewing downward. After sewing, bring the thread to the starting yarn tail. Then tie both tails together with a double knot to secure them. Trim the remaining yarn tails and weave them inside the piece. Everyone can finish this part on their own. Then turn the piece so the right side is facing outward. Next, remove the securing thread. Complete the rest of the steps on your own. This way, the piece is now attached. Continue by crocheting the edging. Start with a foundation chain, then work a row of single crochets. After finishing, don't cut the yarn yet. Here you can compare the size with the edge of the opening. It should be able to form a complete circle. If it's too short, at the starting chain, pick up the insertion point from the edge and begin again with the corresponding number of chains. Then continue working single crochets on the chains. If it's too long, you can undo part of it. Simply pull the yarn through. Unravel until you reach a suitable position. And keep the yarn tail for later use. For this part of crocheting, please refer to the chart and complete it on your own. After completing the crocheting, the next step is sewing together. First, enlarge the last loop on your hook. Then pull the piece through itself from the inside. This will create a knot to secure it and prevent unraveling. Next, take another piece of yarn in the same color. Insert the yarn needle. Turn the beginning chain of the edging to face it inward. Place it along the edge of the hole. Cover the connection point between the piece and TPU. You can start sewing from the corner position. Pick up the wrong side and sew together roughly in correspondence with the piece. There's no specific method required. Just make sure it's secure and looks nice. Leave a bit of yarn at the start. Pay attention to the direction while sewing. Tie the two yarn tails into a knot to secure them slightly. Continue sewing by matching up the edges. If you run out of yarn during the process, tie a knot to join the new yarn. Sew until the beginning and ending can connect together. Afterward, deal with the piece's ending. If the dimension is not enough, untie the knot at the yarn tail, and continue crocheting single crochets. The extra chains can be undone if needed. Untie the starting knot as well. Then follow the braid-like texture. Unravel one by one until there is one chain space left on the left side of the single crochet. Once you reach the corresponding position, pull the final knot tight here. Then sew the beginning and ending together at the connection point. Pass the tail end to the wrong side. And bring it next to the starting yarn tail. Then weave both tails into the inside of the piece. Tie a knot and weave the tails inside the piece. This way, the edging is attached properly. That's all for the TPU part. Next, we'll attach the zipper, sew along the opening of the main part. Below, I'll share a method for sewing the zipper for your reference. You can also sew it in your preferred way. Please watch the demonstration. Now, let's sew the zipper. Here, I'll demonstrate using a small sample. Attach the zipper at the opening position. First, cut a piece of sewing thread a bit longer. Thread the needle. Fold the thread in half and tie a knot at the end. Set it aside for later use. Before sewing, let's take a look at the structure of the zipper. In the closed state, the side with the zipper head is the top stop position. The other end is the bottom stop position. On both sides are the tapes. The tapes have the chain on them. Place the opening facing you. Choose which end to place the zipper head, based on your usage preference. Place the bottom stop position on the side of the opening. Make sure the zipper head faces upward. Don't reverse its position. You can check the length of the zipper first. The reserved lengths at both ends of the zipper can be roughly identical. Secure the bottom stop position to the opening. When securing, be mindful not to show visible stitches on the surface. Sew a few times to secure it well. You can also sew a few stitches to fix the extra bottom stop position. After securing the bottom stop, pull the zipper open. Align the opening edge with the zipper chain roughly. Then start sewing one side of the zipper tape. Pick up the edging stitch positions on the main part for sewing. Gently tighten the thread slightly, so that no sewing traces show on the surface. Try to sew as densely as possible. This will make it more secure. Pay attention to adjusting the zipper and piece while sewing, ensuring the zipper teeth correspond with the piece edge. At the same time, keep the opening flat, and don't let the piece expand outward or pull inward. Everyone can continue sewing using this method. Sew a little more at the end to secure it. Sew until you reach the other side's position. Zip up the zipper. And sew a few stitches to fix the two top stops to the piece. Pay attention to align the center of the zipper with the reserved position. The zipper head should face outward. And don't sew it inside. After securing it well, You can slightly fix the excess part of the zipper to the piece again, or trim it off after leaving a little distance from the piece. You can decide based on your own preference. If the yarn tail is still long, you can go back and sew over it again, making it more secure. After completing, tie a knot and weave in the yarn tail. This way, one side of the zipper is secured. The sewing method for the other side is the same. Pay attention to zip up the zipper while sewing. Adjust the position as needed. Prevent sewing the two parts of the zipper crooked. At the same time, make sure the piece doesn't stretch outward or pucker inward. Keep everything neat and aligned. Everyone, go ahead and complete it. Now, take a look. This is the sample looks like after the zipper has been sewn on. That concludes our explanation of how to sew a zipper.